So you're looking at getting a Brio trimmer, but you're not sure if you should get version 1 or version 2. Well, hopefully by the end of this video, you will have all the answers that you need to make an educated purchase. Now, obviously, a company doesn't come out with a V2 if they haven't made some changes to their original. And we're going to call the original just the V1 for the purpose of this video. Now, before we get into the differences of these, let's look into what is the same. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the blades, as they are the same and can be swapped in between the version 1 and version 2. Which also means that the heads, as well as the connecting device or mechanism inside of the head, is also the same. Now, both versions came with the same accessories as well. You get 4 combs, a charging cord and port, an oil bottle, as well as a cleaning brush. And of course, they're both cordless, which means that they both have a battery in them. And they share the same battery with a 22 milliamp hour lithium ion battery that should give you right around 4 hours of use. And both of these trimmers you can use plugged in as well, just in case that battery does end up dead on you. Now, unlike the batteries, the motors are not the same motor, and they have upgraded it to a different one for the V2. However, they both still range from 5,000 RPMs to the 7,000 RPMs. Which means that you still get the same speed selection and high speed cutting that you may need. And as far as the weight goes on these, they might as well be the same, because when I weighed them, I had one that was 8 ounces and one that was 8.1. So they both come in right about the exact same weight. Now that we know it's the same in both of these trimmers, let's take a look at what's not. The first thing we're going to be taking a look at is the physical features of both of these trimmers. Both of these trimmers do taper down a bit right after the head of the trimmer. However, it is much more noticeable, I think, in the V1 than the V2. And I think that part of the reasoning is because the V1 has a much smaller hand grip or circumference all the way around it than the V2 does. So they needed to taper the head down quite a bit more than the V2. The V2 is also about a 1/4 inch longer than the original Beardscape. While the buttons in the V1 are all hard plastic, they changed that over to silicone in the V2, which just gives a little bit more pleasant use experience. They also made the selector for the adjustable blade a little bit larger, so it is easier to manipulate. Now, when you're holding a trimmer, you need something to grab onto and something that has a little bit of a grip. Well, on the original, they just have a few lines that are raised up on the 2 sides and nothing underneath. Well, that has changed with the V2, as they now have grips going all the way down both sides of the trimmer and added in those raised lines right underneath the blade head, which should help with giving great blade control. Now, although these are fairly small housing changes, I do have to say that the V2 feels a little bit better and a little bit more natural in my hand than the V1 does. And that feeling is just appreciated when you are holding it. What is next? What else could they change? Well, they actually went ahead and changed the little screen to give us the information that we need for the trimmer. Now, I do have to say that the screen in the V1 is a bit bigger. However, it isn't colored, but it does show the load that the trimmer head is getting. So in other words, it basically told you when you would need to re-oil it or clean it out, because it's just having a little bit of a harder time doing what it's supposed to do, where the V2 does not. However, the V2 does something that I think is a little bit more important, and that is showing the millimeter that you are cutting with your adjustable blade. Because let's face it, some of our bathrooms don't have the best lighting, so trying to see in here, it can be complicated sometimes. With the new screen, you don't need to worry about that, because it says that right on the screen. Now, not only is that screen colored, but it has a little trick up its sleeve. As with the original, you had to turn it on and waste a little bit of battery just to see how much battery was left or how many more minutes you had to shave with it before the battery would be dead. Well, the V1 is a motion activated, so you don't have to turn it on, you just have to pick it up, look at it. When you set it back down, it turns off in right around 3 seconds. So you're gonna be using a lot less battery to check that screen rather than, running the motor to do so. If you're traveling with the V1 and that accidentally gets pushed, it's just gonna run itself dead unless if it miraculously gets powered off again. Where the V2 actually has a travel lock on it, so you can lock it so that you know that you're not going to have a dead battery when you get to your destination. And that right there is all of the differences that I can find anyway of both of these trimmers. Except for one last thing, and that is the price. Now, at the time of this recording, the V1 comes in at about $85, where the V2 comes in at right around $105, $110, depending on where you're looking. Now, as a disclaimer for this next portion, I want to say that I have not used the V2 for my 30-day trial period like I have already for the V1. So this next portion here, I'm going to just go off of the features and the feel of both of these trimmers. Now, I was also sent both of these to put into videos and to use in videos and do reviews and videos with. So I did not buy these myself. That all being said, if I needed a trimmer and it was between one of these two and I had about $100, which one of these would I get? Well, I would have to say that I would save up an additional $10 to $15 and go with the V2 because it does feel that much nicer and like I can control it that much better with it sitting in my hands over the V1. Now, if you already have the V1, should you run out or upgrade to the V2? Well, unless there's something wrong with your original Beardscape, I would have to say probably not, as it's not going to make much difference in your cutting as the speeds are the same, the heads and the trimmers itself are the same. So I would say wait for your V1 to give up the ghost before you go out and buy the V2. So in short, I think that these are both good options for a trimmer, and I can't really say anything bad about the V1 as it's held up since I've gotten it, and it works perfectly fine to this day. But if you want something a little bit more updated and something that's a little bit more comfortable in the hand, the V2 is the way to go. And if you want either of these trimmers, of course, you can go down to the video description and check out my link down there for you guys. And if you have any more questions that you want to know about these trimmers, please go ahead and leave them in the comments below. If you like this video and you want to see or learn more about either the Beardscape 1 or the V2, go ahead and check out this video for Brio products. Down below, that's going to be a video that you may enjoy as well. And until next time, as always, you have a good one.